Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast, episode 203. Where do the Rays go? I'm Nick. We have Harrison tonight. How are we doing, Harrison?
Better than the Rays. How you doing, Nick?
I don't even know what to think about it all, but we'll get into it. But first, make sure you follow and like us on Facebook. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can follow on Instagram, Rumble, TikTok, all the platforms. You can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. We have our affiliate programs where you can find these links to these companies on the top of all of our socials: Dick's Sporting Goods, MLB Shops, and Lids. You just click on these links and do your shopping through those companies, and we get a nice little kickback with no additional cost to you. So it's just a nice way to support us and our podcast by shopping through these companies, where a lot of us already do. So please use those links when shopping.
Yeah, thanks to all of you that have.
Absolutely. And our Rounding Third merch, we got our sweatshirts, tumblers, t-shirts, phone cases. We got a bunch of stuff on there. It's just another way to support the podcast. My father-in-law got a nice little sweatshirt. He got the blue one. It looks incredible. So please go on there and sport some Rounding Third merch. And it's a good way for us to get our name out there. So you're supporting us by buying the products and you're getting our name out there. So it'd be greatly appreciated. All right. Let's start off with the Tampa Bay Rays. News came in early this morning. The Rays have canceled the new stadium deal in St. Pete. And the owner comes out and says the series of events no one could have anticipated led to this decision. And the series of events is Hurricane Milton, right? I mean, it is what it is. Like, it was the worst timing for the Tampa Bay Rays at that time. Like, they were already talking about going to a new ballpark.
Looks like we lost Nick. All right, let's talk a little bit about Tampa Bay here for a second while Nick comes back. So Tampa Bay Rays are withdrawing from the $1.3 billion project. Stuart Sternberg came out and mentioned the series of events like Nick had mentioned. And when you pull that apart, what they're talking about is obviously the hurricane damage, but also the fact they've had some delays. The financing costs have gone up, the construction costs have gone up, the project costs have gone up, and therefore the Rays are now out. They're unable to make this work. So what they're saying is they're planning on just focusing right now on getting Tropicana Field ready to go. They want to have Tropicana Field ready to go for 2026 because the Yankees have told them there is no using Steinbrenner Field again, and they don't want to. I mean, nobody wants to play outside baseball consistently in Florida in the middle of the summer. So it's a 1-year deal for them. And then what's going to end up happening is they're going to focus on getting Tropicana Field ready. They're going to go all in on getting Tropicana Field ready. They're going to just remain in Tropicana Field while they figure out what's next. Because the other piece of all this is the fact that there is pressure coming from MLB to sell the team. And because of that, that is the other circumstance or situation here, is that there's now pressure coming from other owners as well as the league, that the only way to move forward for the Rays is to get them to sell the team. Because the situation between the St. Petersburg mayor, Ken Welch, who was a big proponent of keeping the Rays in town, and Sternberg, who owns them, apparently that relationship is not very good. And Sternberg has not necessarily made a lot of friends through all this. And that is now causing friction that MLB is stepping in and saying, maybe we can't solve this problem. So the good thing in all this is that the Rays are looking forward to actually playing on the other side of Tampa so they can get a sense of what that market looks like as a whole, because it sounds like if Sternberg doesn't sell and he doesn't want to sell, they would then try to keep the team in Tampa, maybe just on in a different section of Tampa. And because of that, they'll be able to explore now what that market looks like and have that opportunity. I've got to reinvite Nick in here. But this is going to give them an opportunity to actually see what it looks like on the other side of the city, see if they want to move out of St. Petersburg, back into Tampa, get into the bigger market where they can actually hopefully draw better fans or a greater number of fans than they currently do. All right, set that. All right. So the proposed project, it was a $6.5 billion full-on revitalization project known as the Historic Gas Plant District. That's the section of St. Petersburg being redone. The ballpark was $1.3 billion. Of that, it was a 30,000 seat stadium. It was kind of the centerpiece of the whole thing. That's now on hold, which could potentially jeopardize the whole development, although it sounds like they want to move forward and continue on with the development. But this is a significant blow to the Rays in terms of now not having a future state, a new ballpark that's coming. It's a huge blow for MLB because that's a market they really wanted to nurture and build up that they're now having to figure out a plan B for. And it's a massive blow to St. Petersburg because they spent a lot of time, energy, and money trying to retain the Rays. And now the Rays are kind of throwing their hands up and saying this doesn't work. So they could always continue to play in Tropicana Field for a while, or they could go source another ballpark somewhere else, or Sternberg could sell the ball club to somebody else who could keep it in Tampa, or they could move it. And that's what gets interesting in all this is what are the chances that that Orlando group has been getting ready for a team doesn't just buy it and relocate it to Orlando. Doesn't solve the problem of having a home because they'd still have to build a ballpark, but at least you'd have a path to something and a path to a future. And he's back.
Yo. Can you hear me all right?
I gotcha.
All right. That was ridiculous.
All right.
Anyways, my whole internet just completely crashed. So
I ran through the Tampa Bay Rays article and situation.
all right.
Anything else you want to touch on with that?
No, I mean, just not knowing where they're gonna go, I think is like the big thing. Is just like where did you say? Do you think they're gonna go to Orlando?
Well, it's one of the things I mentioned is what are the chances that group from Orlando swoops in and tries to make a bid for them? Because Sternberg has the option; he can sell the team, and they can either keep it in Tampa or move it. Sternberg could do nothing, and they could just keep playing in Tropicana Field for a while, or they could go source another ballpark somewhere else in the Tampa Bay area because it sounds like the issues with St. Petersburg. So one of the things that was mentioned in the article and in several articles was the fact that the Rays are actually looking forward to playing on the other side of Tampa this year to get a sense of if they can draw better over there or not. Because the trip to St. Petersburg, I mean, I was just in Tampa a couple weeks ago, and I got to post a video of my trip to the ballpark. But that trip to St. Pete, you're a good 30 minutes easy out of the edges of Tampa.
Yeah.
With traffic, forget about it. But then you look at going deeper and deeper into St. Petersburg, coming off the highway, going into a big development, like that is not an easy trip. And that definitely turns people away. And you're also fighting with the fact that you're in Tampa, which is beautiful. The weather's great most of the year. You're fighting with other things people can be doing.
Right. Yeah. I think at this point, with the owner not having a great relationship with St. Petersburg, and that sounds like that's where the pressure's coming from, is from the MLB office, because the MLB office is like, well, the mayor doesn't like you, so this isn't going to work. This relationship's not going to work, because we're trying to build a ballpark, and then you're not really cooperating with them. I don't know. It's just there's so many moving pieces here. I don't know where it's gonna go. I don't know how it's gonna play out.
Yeah.
Like, does he sell part of the team, and does he sell part of it to that Orlando ownership group and just move them there? Does, like you say, do they play it out in St. Petersburg? I don't know. I'm lost on it at this point. Don't really know.
It sounds like the only thing that is more likely than not is that they won't be playing in St. Petersburg long term. They're going to be leaving St. Petersburg, whether they go to Tampa, whether they go somewhere else in the country. St. Petersburg is no longer in the long-term plan for the Rays.
Right. Yeah. Just absolutely crazy. But
It's a weird situation. I also had mentioned the fact that the league is putting some pressure on Sternberg to sell because MLB wants to nurture that market. They want to be in that market.
right.
And having a bad relationship between the owner and the mayor is not great. At the same time, St. Petersburg as a location is not great. You're better off putting them in Tampa. You've got Raymond James Stadium. You got the Yankees down the street from that, all on the other side of the airport, which is way better location wise for what the Rays ideally want and way easier to draw to because you can actually get there.
Right. Yeah.
So it's challenging. It's challenging, but the Rays just continue to deal with drama. it's
Yeah.
drama.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know which way they go from here.
We
Don't mind me as I sit here and try to fix my internet too.
say we check in the internet.
I'm trying. But
It's the beauty.
anyways,
It's a beautiful live show. We make do and we roll with it.
This is brutal, dude. But yeah, you have the slideshow right there, though, right?
I got it right here.
All right.
So let's move on from the Rays. So the other big headline of the week was Vlad Jr. So the details, or at least his details of his contract negotiation between him and the Blue Jays came out, and it sounds like at the end of the day, Vladdy's last counteroffer to the Blue Jays was 15 years for somewhere less than $600 million. And it sounds like the real sticking point for Vladdy was they were off on the AAV about $50 million over the life of the contract, which over 15 years, you're talking what, $3.5 million a year?
Yeah, not much.
You're not that far off on the AAV, but more importantly, Vladdy didn't want any of his contract deferred. He wanted to just get paid straight up. And I think this is interesting because you and I were going back and forth on this earlier. I think we're going to see a trend of players making that request to not defer anything because I think what we're going to find through this whole Dodgers scenario and all these other big contracts is the fact that there's probably more deferred money out there or more deferred money offered now than there ever has been. And I think there's going to be players. We saw it with Soto, no deferrals. I'm not deferring anything. You're seeing Vladdy say it now too. I'm not deferring anything.
Right.
You've got players saying, I don't want to play that game to help you. I want my money. And I think that's going to be a trend we start to see.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, players are going to want the money now and then invest with it how they can, right? I mean, they probably want to get the money all up front, invest it how they want to, instead of waiting for it later down the road. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's granted, I think these guys are getting nothing when you do the deferrals, except for Shohei. Shohei's a whole nother scenario.
Right.
But at the same time, like if you offered to pay me that, I'd like to get paid that. Because to your point, I'd like to have the money. I'd like to go invest the money. I'd like it to be my money. I don't have to wait another 5, 10, 15 years for it.
Yeah.
And we saw in the Blue Jays contract with Santander, there's a lot of deferred money in that it kind of came out later how much they were deferring anywhere from a third to a half of that contract, depending on where he landed in terms of incentives. So that's I think that's going to be a trend. Yeah, John, it's money. It's all about the money. And for these guys, I mean, these contracts are huge, and I don't want to be sitting there waiting to get paid. If you told me you're going to pay me that, I'd like to see it.
I don't disagree. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think I'd want to get paid up front too. I mean, it is nice to have that security. Like after you retire, you don't have to really worry about it, and you still have a check kind of flowing in. I mean, everybody's different, but I'd also like to have it to invest it how I see fit. You know, for the second half of my life. I mean, I'm retiring at what? Let's average 37, 38 usually, right? And that's a good career. Like,
yeah, and for Vladdy, if he signs a 15-year deal, he's retiring at 40. So
right. But I want to figure out what I'm doing at the back half of my career too. So
right.
I want that money now instead of waiting for it when I'm 50 or 55.
The story we've talked about all offseason. Guess who is it? Guess who says they have no money to give? The Mariners ownership.
Yep.
I mean, although and I'm not trying to defend the Mariners because we all agree they are absolutely wasting the best, maybe one of the best pitching staffs we'll ever see assembled. However, they're not the only ownership group out there that is refusing to spend any money. That is becoming more of a trend than I think any of us expected. It's these owners that are okay just existing. And that is frustrating on many levels.
Yeah. Uh, it's crazy. I don't know how the Mariners don't like I mean we've been talking about it forever. I mean like they have the staff. They're two or three bats away, really. I mean, you could get away with Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, and three decent MLB sticks, and they just won't invest in it. It's mind blowing to me.
This is the window to go and make a run for it. This is the window to compete. And they're just going to sit by and let it go by. And that window's going to close. I mean, those guys aren't going to be there forever. They won't be able to keep them all forever. But it is disappointing to waste that year after year. Just inexcusable.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So on the other side, Nick, here's your favorite story of the day. Anthony Santander. So when Anthony Santander was asked earlier this week if the Orioles offered him a contract, his reply was yes, but it wasn't even close.
Yeah, like it's straight up in an interview. He just goes, he laughs and he goes, "Yeah, but they weren't even close." It's just like, again, where are the Orioles going? What do they want to do? I'm lost on them. I don't. I mean, he has come out and said that he doesn't have the money to spend, right? He doesn't have the revenue to turn around on the team. Correct? He said that before.
Correct.
So I don't really know. It's interesting to me.
Well, and it's funny because this is an owner with significant wealth. Um, however, it's a team that still doesn't have great revenue. Like this is not a big market team. They have a very strong following. Don't get me wrong, but this
Right.
is not like a juggernaut when it comes to revenue to spend on players. Um, there's a lot of years where Angelos was paying a lot of stuff kind of over and above what they had and running at a loss because he needed to put players in the field to put butts in the seats. So I just the Orioles are not playing from a position of strength when it comes to playing the big contract game. However, it does make you wonder, like if their offer was so far off, are they really that serious? And when it comes to players like Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman coming up for free agency, are they even going to make an attempt to sign those guys? Or are they just going to turn this whole team over?
I, I mean, from the sounds of it, looks like he's gonna have to turn it over and start from scratch, which is insane.
Brutal.
But
I mean, again, I said it last week. I'm going to say it again. Orioles fans ate crap for a long time to get to this window with all this young talent.
yep,
And to do nothing with it and completely waste it should be criminal.
1,000% with you. Absolutely brutal.
Just painful.
Yeah.
What do you think, real quick, Nick? Santander, does he have a better year, same year, worse year in Toronto next year?
I think he is who he is at this point. I think he's steady. I think he's 35, 85. Es- Especially with Vlad Guerrero, Bo Bichette. Like he's still got protection around him. So I think he's 35 and 85. So
Yeah, John, you're not lying. They're becoming the East Coast Mariners. Although they don't have the pitching, they have the offense. They've
right.
got the reverse. If you could take the Mariners and Orioles and merge them together, you'd have an unstoppable team.
Yep.
You could actually pitch and hit to be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's 35, 85, and I think he is who he is.
Yeah, yeah, I
But
tend to agree. I think he has a. I don't think he's. I think Camden Yards sets up better for him, being a predominantly left-handed power hitter. Um,
yeah.
I don't think. I mean, Toronto's not an unfriendly place to hit, but I think Camden Yards is a little bit more friendly.
Yeah.
And I do think with that protection in the lineup, he's not going to lose anything. So,
No, I
but
think his power numbers right-handed could increase though.
it's
I
fair.
mean, he had a big wall and they moved it back and Camden Yards and
Yeah.
Blue Jays pretty uniform all the way around, so he could have better power numbers right-handed. I mean, he doesn't see a lot of right-handed at bats there, but it is what it
No,
is.
but he will, and he might. There may be a few swings that turn into home runs that weren't last year. I
Right.
am looking
Exactly.
forward to his return to Baltimore to see what kind of reception he gets.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for
But
sure.
because he was the longest tenured Oriole, right, when he left,
It was
or
either
one of.
him or I mean Mullins has been there for a hot minute
That's
too.
true. That's true. So it's probably he and Cedric are the longest, or the two
Yeah.
longest
Yeah, I would
tenured Orioles.
imagine. That makes sense.
But all right, your favorite manager. Actually, I guess who used to be our favorite manager, but now we like to pick on Aaron Boone more.
Yeah.
Dave Roberts extension through the 2029 season. $32.4 million extension, 8.1 million per year, now makes him the highest paid manager in baseball, beating Craig Counsell by $100,000.
Hey,
Is
he's
Dave
still.
Roberts the best manager in baseball, Nick?
I mean, I don't want to say no because he honestly flipped the script for me last year in the playoffs. We have seen Dave Roberts manage, and it seemed like he was almost a puppet, where it was like the front office was pulling the strings. His in-game management was Aaron Boone-esque, and it just seemed like he wasn't like managing by feel. Now, last year in the playoffs was completely different. I think he managed to the feel of the game. It just looked different on the field. I think this extension is correct. I mean, everybody in the clubhouse loves him. He demands respect in that clubhouse. Um, he gets respect in that clubhouse, and that's huge. When your players respect you and who you are as a person, I mean, that's huge. I mean, he's pulling pranks on his players. Players are playing pranks back. Like that's like that's the relationship building stuff that you want out of a manager. And like I said, his on-field performance last playoffs kind of swung me. Would I say he's the best manager? I don't know. But he also looks great when he has 8 future Hall of Famers on his team.
I was just going to say, when you've got a $450 million payroll and a lineup and rotation full of all-star Cy Young candidates, future Hall of Famers. I mean, I'm pretty sure anybody can go to LA and manage.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to do a lot with that team. And these are players like Shohei, Mookie, Freddie Freeman. Like, these are not guys that need a lot of coaching. They're
Right.
going to show up, do their job, do it at the highest level. You don't need to babysit any of these guys. So,
Right.
and they will police themselves. So I think I have a ton of respect for Dave Roberts as a baseball guy. I think about what he did for the Red Sox. I think about the career that he had. I think about the impact he's had around baseball. Like, he's done a lot of good things for baseball. Is
Yes.
he a great manager? No. He impressed me last year. He did a better job last year. But he's not a great manager, and he's very much a product of the team they've put around him. And good for him. I mean, a lot of Yankees fans would tell you that Joe Torre wasn't a great manager either, and he won a
Right.
boatload because he had a great team around him. So
Yeah.
anybody looks good when you've got a good team.
Yeah. And if you're winning, it doesn't matter. Like you can be the worst in-game management manager ever, but if your team's winning, then you get the credit for it. Just like you get fired if you're not. So it's a double-edged sword there.
Yeah, and chat's pretty much unanimous with us that no, he's not a great manager. You could have a golden retriever manage the season with that lineup, and they would have the same record. I
Yeah.
don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. And no, we got you. Not a personal attack, just clarifying your stance. And you could let the fans manage. You could just put the decisions up on the scoreboard and let people vote, and they'd probably come out just the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, yeah, John. Like, I'm playing the show. Just skip 20 games to see what happens.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to worry about it. This team is going to win. They're going to win whether he's there or not.
Yeah.
But good for him. Good for him to ride this thing to an extension.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I don't. He's not the top. He's not the top manager, but like I said, I think he kind of switched my thinking a little bit in the last playoff run he had because it looked like he was managing by feel. So
Yeah. A couple of great points in the chat from Brandon. Tito's managing when the Indians lost to the Cubs. That was, he almost won that series for them.
yeah,
Came real close. And then I would agree here. Roberts has always tended to overmanage his pitching staff. He makes too many moves. He overthinks
Yep.
it. And we always thought that was because he was being told what to do. It might just be his feel for the game or like an anxiety he has around the pitchers. But he's always done too much. As the
Yeah.
kids would say, he's doing too much.
Yep. Agree.
So, but good for Dave Roberts. A lot of respect for him.
Yeah.
Although, is Craig Counsell the best manager in baseball? Yeah, no. See, I'm with you. I don't think any of these top paid guys are even very good managers.
No, I mean, I don't know if I could give you my top manager. I mean, as crazy as it is, what AJ Hinch did with that team last year was insane. Tito Francona coming back to the Reds. We're gonna see if he's still got it. Um, I mean, again, from that Astros tree, like Alex Cora, but even then, lately, it seems like we're kind of not near the top like he was.
Right.
I don't know. Who would you say is the best manager right now?
I mean, it's hard to pick one. I think there's a few guys I look at as just really great managers. Um, a good point by Brandon. We don't give credit to a manager when their team is above average. You're right. I think a lot of times the manager they get all the blame when they're terrible. They get a
Yep.
bunch of credit when they're not supposed to be good, and they get no credit when they are good. I think that as a manager, it's a relatively thankless job.
Oh, absolutely.
But when I look around the league, I think you've got a lot of, I would say, younger. I mean, Tito Francona, obviously, his body of work speaks for itself. But you've also got a lot of managers, I would say, are in the earlier side of their career. Brandon Hyde has done a great job in Baltimore. The
Yeah.
2 playoff exits make me a little nervous. But he's done a great job in Baltimore. You've Quattrone out in Kansas City, who's done a great job with a young team, bringing them around. On the older side, I mean, I look at Bruce Bochy. Bruce Bochy's still a guy that has the feel for the game,
Yep.
and knows how to manage a team through the ups and downs.
Torey Lavello.
Torey Lavella's done a great job in Arizona. So I mean, I think you have some managers who have, I think, begun to establish themselves, but
Yeah.
I think you got a couple that are clearly at the top end. You got a bunch of guys that I think are overhyped. Craig Counsell is one of them. And then I think you got a lot of other guys that are just there. They're existing. Like I look at a guy like Bud Black. Great baseball guy. May not be any smarter baseball guy than Bud Black. But he's never going to be successful because his team is always going to be trash.
Yeah. Right.
You put Bud Black in LA, you put Bud Black in Chicago, you put Bud Black in Boston, and people are talking about him as though he's one of the best managers in baseball. But because he's toiling away in mediocrity in Colorado, he doesn't get credit for what he does.
Yeah, and he's got over 1,000 career wins, right? So it's like,
And losses.
right. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
But
And I totally agree with this comment. These ex-journeyman catchers always seem to be great managers.
yes, Stephen Vogt. Yep.
Yep.
Yachty Molina's coming soon.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Mike Scioscia. I mean, all these guys, they end up being great managers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. Even on the field, they've managed the game
They have.
for years, their entire career. They know the ins and outs. They see the whole field all the time. They see it from a certain perspective that nobody else on the field gets. So, I mean, and they study the game, the game plan before every game, every series, every pitch,
Yep.
every half inning, they're going over game plan. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely agree with that.
All right. Let's talk about the Yankees. And again, I'm enjoying the chorus of crying coming from Yankees fans in general, so I'm not trying to downplay this, but
Yeah.
the Yankees are looking to make a move. And at the moment, the Yankees they're, as we said last week, they're working the phones. Alcantara's in the sites. Apparently they're calling on Dylan Cease. They should be calling the Cardinals to see if they can get Sonny Gray. They are working the phones. So do you, Nick, think the Yankees make a move? And do we see? So first of all, do they make a move? And secondly, do we see one of these headline type pitchers end up in New York?
I think they make a move. I mean, they can't sit still. I think they understand that the need for starting pitching is huge because if you're going in relying on Marcus Stroman to be your number three, number four, um, I I think you have to make a move. If it's I don't know about one of these big arms because it sounds like Dylan Cease has been kind of cast aside. Like they said, it's unlikely that a deal will get done to go to New York with Dylan Cease.
And is that coming from the Padres not wanting to trade him, or the Yankees not? Is that just a general consensus? The Padres no longer want to move him.
I think it's just general consensus in general. I can't remember where I read that, but it just said that he was kind of unlikely to go, which to me means he could be dealt tomorrow. Yeah, who knows? Who am I? Um, but that's what I've heard. Or maybe the Yankees are out on him. I don't know. Alcantara is a interesting one because I don't know if the Marlins are gonna try to hold him almost for ransom, for a lack of a better word. You know what I mean? Like I think they're gonna want a pretty big package for him, and I think holding on to him until maybe June, mid June, start of July, when he's proven that he's come back from his injuries, and then the Marlins can demand top prospects for him. I think that would be smart for the Marlins to do. Whether they do it or not, I don't know. But if you trade Alcantara right now with only what two, I mean, damn good spring training starts under his belt,
He's been great.
right? But you still that injury is still fresh in your mind. You're not gonna give up a ton of prospects to get him right now with the fear of him getting hurt again, especially for the Yankees. They can't make a deal and have a guy get hurt. Like so,
Could you imagine you make a big trade and he gets hurt like in May?
yeah. I mean, Dylan Cease is a workhorse. So
Yeah.
I think I would do whatever I could to pry him away from the Padres. I just don't know what the Padres' thinking is going into the season. Like, are they going to compete in the NL West? Are they just there? Um, I think they still think they have a good team, which they might. I'm
Well,
on the fence about them. I don't know.
I think
But
I think they're I think they're still a good team, not as good as last year, but I think they're still better than we probably think because it's a lot of the same guys returning.
yes, agree. Um, so I think they kind of hang on to C. So I think it's more of them saying, nah, we're not going to really part with him and we'll deal with it around the trade deadline if we're out.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And when I read the other day, the Padres have pulled Michael King back. He's not available anymore.
Yeah,
Cease is for the right price. And
right.
from what I just read a minute ago, it sounds like the Yankees and Padres are still talking. The general consensus is they probably can't put a deal together in time to get him there for opening day, because the asking price is still high on Cease.
Right. As it
And
should be.
understandably so. He's
Yeah.
pretty good last time I checked.
Yeah.
And I 1000% agree with you on Alcantara. Sandy's value gets higher the deeper he pitches into the season, the more people get to see him, and the more he shows he's healthy.
Right.
It's one thing to throw 99 in spring training over the 6 innings he's pitched or whatever. It's another thing to still be standing in July after making, probably what, a dozen starts, 15 starts, and show that you are truly back. Like that body, the
Yeah.
bigger the body of work, the more value he's going to bring.
1,000%.
So I think the Yankees have talked about going into the season with some of their younger arms, and trying to figure it out, knowing that Luis Heel is coming back in May, May or June. It sounds
Hopefully.
like, yeah, hopefully. I mean, obviously he's going to have to get ramped back up and et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see what the actual timeline is, but there is help coming. You just have to get there.
Yeah.
This feels like the Texas Rangers of last year all over again. Like if you can just still be in it when you get some help, you'll be okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Bobby Witt Jr. Boy, this was like heart palpitation when I got the message from you. So Bobby Witt was hit by a pitch in Wednesday's game. It looked like it was off the hand. It sounds like it was actually more up off the forearm.
Forearm. Yeah.
X-rays came back negative. Thank God. It's a deep bruise. And it's a massive, massive sigh of relief for Royals fans, because when you told me that Bobby Witt got hit by a pitch, my heart about stopped.
Yeah, I did
Because if
too
he
because
goes
I
down, it's
drafted him.
over.
Yep, and I did too because I drafted him first in our fantasy
Right.
league Tuesday. So I was like, God, another first round pick goes down to injury. But no, I mean, this would have been a death blow for the Royals right off the top.
Yep.
It really would have. I mean, it would have been like even if he's out, what a broken hand is 4 to 6 weeks
Yep.
usually, and then sometimes they come back and they're not quite the same. Um, Especially it depends on where in the hand they got hit.
Right.
So I mean, this was huge that it was off the forearm and no break, and it's just gonna take some time off. But um, yeah, massive, massive sigh of relief for baseball fans everywhere. To be completely honest,
Yeah, I don't disagree. Don't disagree at all.
but yeah,
If you lose him, things get bleak fast.
yeah. The initial reports that came through Bleacher Report said it was off the hand, and I go, that's not good. And then they changed it later to forearm, and I was like, okay, a little bit better there, especially when they came back with a no break. So,
Yeah, the break would have been devastating.
yep,
Absolutely
absolutely.
devastating.
So, yeah, I all for it. I'm glad that he's all right because the season he put in last year was MVP caliber season, and I want to see him take another step forward this year, which is crazy to think about that he could.
I know. I know. I mean, I I wouldn't be shocked if he still has more.
Right.
If you could still get more from him. I mean, he is so unbelievably, disgustingly talented.
Hmm.
Um, Speed, everything. I mean, he's got the whole package,
Yep.
which
He does.
is rare.
Yep.
All right, one of your favorite highlights of the week, Nick. Seiya
This was
Suzuki jumped into the batting cage with a samurai sword to take BP.
Yeah, this is so cool because like they've showed a lot of clips of them doing like Japanese stuff and like being like in the culture like with the teams, and it was hilarious. I don't know if you saw like Imanaga was on stage with Council in front of a whole bunch of people, and they were doing some drumming, and then he picked up the mallets of the drum and he did the whole Craig Council batting stance with it after, and Council was like laughing. But this was just another thing. He steps into the batter's box with a samurai sword and just goes and cuts like 8 baseballs right in half with it. Which, first of all, takes incredible eye-hand coordination,
Yeah,
and he's like slicing them legit in half. If you play this video all the way through, if you can find it, it's incredible. He One of the baseballs gets cut in half and actually hits the camera at the end, and he goes over and checks on the cameraman. But yeah, it's really cool that they're actually taking in all the Japanese culture and really celebrating their time over there. So it's pretty cool.
yeah. So I'm throwing a link in the chat to an article with the video. If you want to see it, check it out. It's really cool.
Yeah,
But I think more importantly, I think along the lines of what you're saying is that there's been a lot of great video that's come out of this trip to Japan. I mean, there's Pete Crow Armstrong talking about being on a bidet. There's guys that have been walking around in kimonos. Like, they are absolutely taking it all in and
yeah,
making a really big deal out of this trip, which I think is cool. I think it's fun to see these guys go somewhere, have some fun, make baseball approachable, but also hopefully we'll see some good games next week.
yeah.
And the whole trip will be a big win for baseball.
Absolutely. And it usually is when they go to Japan. Like, I mean,
True.
everybody over here, their eyes are on it because it's always the first couple games of the year. So it's good to be back over there and have some baseball and to give the Japanese players that are in the MLB like a homecoming. I think that's really cool too.
Yeah, it's got to be fun for those guys to be able to like take their teammates, like introduce them to their culture. Like, hey,
Yeah.
you're in my world now. Like, let me show you around.
Yep.
Which I think is pretty
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, the samurai sword in the batting cage, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So, all right,
I'm just glad he didn't follow through all the way.
yeah, yeah, somebody might have gotten hurt.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, and maybe our funniest highlight of the week: Kansas Jayhawks hit back to back to back to back to back homers against Minnesota. 5 straight home runs, ties the NCAA record, and they won the game 29-1.
So it was close.
Yeah. I mean, it was a nail biter.
Yeah, that clip is pretty ridiculous too. Because you're just, am I watching the same thing? Nope, I'm just watching the guys hit it out repeatedly. And they were playing at the Minnesota Vikings field. They were playing in the dome over there.
Oh, that's right.
So that was pretty cool too.
That's
But
cool.
I mean, and all these balls were absolute tanks. Like there was a comment on our Facebook page when we posted the video. I think it said, I think those pitches were better than if you just put it on a tee. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad. I mean, they just crushed them.
And Minnesota, I mean, this is a large, well-respected Division I program in Minnesota. Like this is not usually kind of a joke program, and that's a heck of a beatdown to take.
Yeah.
And
College baseball to me, man, is so weird because Minnesota could come back tomorrow and just lay it on the Kansas Jayhawks 32-4. Like we've seen it before. We've seen college games where like team scores 13 runs in the top of the ninth, but the home team comes scores 15 in the bottom of the ninth, and they end up winning. It's like the final
Yeah.
score is like 36-38. I'm like, am I watching football? Nope, that's a baseball score. Like we've seen that in college baseball, especially the last few years. We've had some really weird, fluky games like that.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. The NCAA is obviously the metal bat changes things, but you're also dealing with guys who are they're not nearly the same level. You look across Division I baseball, and what is it? Less than 5% of those guys even make the move up to the next level. So
Right.
on a team of 25 college baseball guys, talking one of those guys is going to the next level. It's like obviously as you make the progressions up through to the major leagues, the talent level gets that much bigger and that much bigger. But I am sometimes shocked when I'll flip over to a game and I'll see a guy out there winning a game 3-0 and he's throwing 85, 86 miles an hour. And I'm like, really? Like that stuff's going to win? But yeah, I mean, when you look across the league, these are still college kids.
Right.
Different game. And all it takes is a guy to have a rough inning, and these games can get away in a hurry.
Yep.
It is wild. All right. We got to hit this comment in the chat, Nick. So Brandon, I'm sorry not to sound like an old guy, get off my lawn, but the season needs to start here. I don't disagree, Nick, but what are your thoughts?
What do you mean the season needs to start
Like
here?
in the US?
Oh, well, yeah, I get that. Absolutely. I don't disagree with that. I think the only reason it makes sense to start it in Japan and not have it mid-season is because it's a half a day time difference, right? Like we can't go over there for a weekend series, get flipped all around sleep schedule wise, to then turn around 3 days later, try to get completely flipped over again, and then have a Sunday game at 1 p.m. Like it's just not going to happen. Like I get it. Like I do. It's America's pastime. It's MLB is the American League. Like I completely understand that. But I just don't know what other time you would be able to do it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. There is something really special about opening day in your ballpark in front of your fans, which obviously only half the teams get to open at home, understood, because the other half have to travel to be the away team. But there's something different about starting the season in your ballpark in front of your fans and that excitement to kick it off. However, there's also got to be something interesting when you're going into a totally new environment, totally new country, where fans have never gotten a chance to see you, and they're all coming in so excited and nuts. Like, was it Korea last year? Where'd they start last year?
But I don't
I'm
know.
trying to remember where they started last year, but either way, that place was so loud.
Yeah.
The ballpark was so loud; it sounded like a World Series game. So I do think there's a lot of excitement that comes from starting somewhere else, places that don't have baseball. But to your point, the logistics of that's like an 18-hour flight to Japan. You've got to deal with the massive time difference. You've got to deal with the fact that you've got all these other logistics making this happen. You got to get back. Time changes. There's no other time in the year where you can carve out like a week to go play 2 or 3 games.
Right.
So I think
And
if you don't do it now, you can't do it, and
right.
that's why they get stuck doing it now.
And London's different, right? Because London's only a 6 hour difference.
Right.
Like, yes, it's still a little bit of adjustment, but it's not a 13 hour, like I'm missing a day of my life to fly to Japan because they're a day ahead of us. Like that's great that you can't do that mid-season. But I completely understand the comment of wanting to start the MLB season here in our country. Like, completely get it. As
Yep.
Red Sox fans, we never get to see the Red Sox start opening, like true opening day at Fenway Park. It's just not ready. I mean, understandably so. It's a Northeast state, not domed. Like, we have to start on the road. We always start on the West Coast or down south or in a dome stadium. Like, I can't remember the last time we've opened up the season at Fenway Park. I don't think it's happened in quite some time. I could be wrong, but it seems like
It's
every season we start on the road.
it's been a while. I mean, it's still cold up here. I mean, in
Right.
late March, early April, it's still cold. I mean, a lot of those days are going to be 40s and 50s, and it's rough. I've heard this before. Doing it before the All-Star break or coming off the All-Star break. I've even heard people say you should send 2 teams over there during the All-Star break. They can travel over for the day of the game, or they can travel over ahead of it, and then the day after the All-Star game is played, you do a quick 2-game series. They come back and they're not too far off the schedule because they can have their 2 days back. I mean, there's ways to get at that. I would like to see them start here, but I understand why they are where they are.
Yeah. I mean, even the All-Star break.
9
e-
West
Oh,
bigger
well,
time difference on the West Coast.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you West
Sorry.
Coasters.
Yeah. Even the All-Star break though would be tight, right? Because
It would
teams'
be.
last game is Sunday, home run derby's Monday night, All-Star game's Tuesday, and there's some games that start back up Thursday night.
Yep.
So really, the All-Star break is 3 days,
Yeah,
and if you're playing in it, you get 1 day off. Cool, nice job.
yeah. You got a typical off day. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
Brandon's in Hawaii. It's even worse. No, never mind.
Okay. Well.
Forget it. You are
Yep.
way out of play.
That's right. What are you? He's 6 hours, right? Is Hawaii 6 hours behind us on the East Coast?
Yeah, it's 3 to California. I think it's 3 more to Hawaii, if I remember correctly.
Dang,
That's a whole nother world out there.
So yeah, he's having his afternoon tea right now. Then we're getting ready for bed.
We're entertaining him as he wraps up work for the day.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, it's an interesting argument though. Do you home, away, another country? There's certainly some pros and cons, but I do like the fact that baseball is kind of reaching out into these other countries and trying to promote the game. I think that's great. It does create some challenges.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let's dive into the hitter power rankings, Nick. So I actually reordered these so we can create some excitement going from 10 to 1 here.
Oh, well, all right then.
I
Just
mean,
switching up my whole show now that I have no internet and no control. I see how it is.
Just say you gave up control when your internet died. So here we go. Buckle in. All right. Anyways, so here are our hitter power rankings to start the season. And this is according to MLB.com. So this is, I believe, all done by their panel of experts or whatever they call themselves. So let's get started. Number 10. Oh, no. It didn't fix. Never mind. I didn't fix it. I thought I fixed it.
Oh,
It's
that's too bad.
because I'm still in the slideshow. That's why.
Oh,
All
gotcha.
right. We're starting at the top. Number 1, Aaron Judge. Kind of hard to argue. 2024 stats: 322 batting average, 10.8 WAR, 58 home runs. I think that's pretty good. Led all of MLB in home runs, led all of MLB in RBIs. 458 OBP was well up there, and 701 slugging is bananas.
Yeah. I mean, it's really a no-brainer to me. However, do I think he's the best overall hitter in baseball? No. But, I mean, these numbers are hard to argue. I mean, but you got to have guys on base to drive them in. 144 times. I mean, 58 home runs helps do that. But the 458 OBP, I had to keep going back and checking. I was like, that's really high.
Yep.
So
That's it's insanely high. I mean, and also the 322 batting average. Like there's a lot of guys in this league that hit home runs that are hitting, 75 to 100 points lower than him.
Or Kyle Schwarber 197.
Yeah, which a whole nother world there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. It's batting average, it's home runs, it's RBIs, it's OBP. Now in the playoffs, different story.
Yeah.
But regular season, Aaron Judge, to me, is still very much clearly the best hitter in baseball, just purely on stats. There's other guys I think do more at the plate because Judge is kind of a one-dimensional guy, but
Yeah.
still, it's hard to argue with what he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree, Brandon. Even the batting average is crazy high. Like he does a lot. You can't argue about much with
No.
Judge at the plate.
No, and like me, like I'm nitpicking at this point. I mean, like Judge is an animal. Let's just call it how it is. He's an animal.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you have stats this good, you're trying to find a fault, and you can't really. I mean, maybe he strikes out a little bit too much, but that's really it. But even again, like you just said, with a 322 batting average, you can deal with the strikeouts.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, and this gets to our strikeouts really even that big a deal anymore. It's an out, an out's an out.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's a K or a pop fly.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Number 2. Shohei Ohtani. So last year, 310 batting average, 9.2 WAR, 54 home runs, 130 RBIs, 390 OBP, and a 646 slugging percentage. When it comes to pure hitting, Shohei is very much a notch below Judge. However, he does put up some ridiculous numbers himself.
Yeah. First 50-50 guy. I mean, I can't argue with that. But
Yeah.
I mean, he's gross. And you could make arguments to flip flop him and Judge and all of that, but from just pure hitting, we're not talking about Shohei's pitching. We're just talking about his hitting. I think he's the second best. I think they got this one right.
Yeah. And I do think the one hole in Shohei's game is that he expands the zone too much.
Yeah.
He will chase. And that is why he has a significantly lower OBP and slug than Judge does. I mean, as an example, Shohei walked 81 times last year, struck out 165 times last year.
Yep.
Judge walked 133 times last year, struck out 171.
Yep.
Ohtani whiffs just as much as Judge does. He walks significantly less because he will expand the zone and put I would say bad pitches in play. Rather than maybe holding off and getting a walk. That's the one weakness in his game is that he will chase.
Now, however, I have seen him take those bad balls and hit them 500 feet as well. Like, I'll give him that. But, we did see quite a bit in the World Series. He rolled over on quite a few pitches.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head with that.
Yeah, and as scary as he is, he has holes. You can get him out. It just you cannot make a mistake to him.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All right, number 3. Not a surprise. Juan Soto, 288 batting average, 7.9 WAR, 41 home runs, 109 RBIs, 419 OBP, 569 slug in 2024.
Now, to me, this is the best overall hitter in the MLB. To me, he walks, the knowledge of the strike zone, the power, the contact, like the batting average. Is he the best in every category? No, I'm not saying he's the best in every category. But when you put the whole package together, to me, I think he's the best overall hitter, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. And I agree. I don't know that I would call Juan Soto the best overall hitter. I definitely think it's the batting average is substantially lower than Judge and Ohtani. The OBP is lower than Judge. The slugging is significantly lower than those two guys. There's a lot of things Juan Soto does great. I mean, he works the zone. He works deep counts. He's very much in control. I do think that Juan Soto is a hair overrated for what he
Okay.
does.
All right.
But I still think he is he's absolutely in the top. He's the top handful of hitters, no doubt.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's just, I think he, like you said, like, I don't think he stands out in every single offensive category, but he's damn good in every offensive category, right? He,
Yeah.
d- I don't think he strikes out in a ton. And if he does, he's swinging at balls in the zone, right? I mean, his knowledge of the strike zone is like nobody else in the major leagues right now. Um, and I just think overall, like he's a stat sheet filler, and
Yes.
he fills them all very well. So to me, that's why I say he's the best overall, because there isn't many holes in his game at the plate. We can talk about his defense on another episode, but at the plate, there's not many holes in his game.
Yeah, he is absolutely not a guy you're looking forward to watching walk up to the plate.
Yeah.
There's absolutely not. And he misplayed a ball badly in right field a couple days
Oh,
ago, and
so bad.
and you could just see Mets fans like their heads roll back, like, oh man, we're gonna have to watch this because he is brutal. He's
Yeah.
absolutely brutal in the outfield.
Yeah, it was terrible.
All right, moving on. Bobby Witt Jr. 332 batting average, 9.4 WAR, 32 home runs, 109 RBIs, 389 OBP, 588 slug. This boy is to me, Bobby Witt Jr. might be the best all-around player in baseball.
Yeah.
But he's definitely a notch below these first three hitters. But he does a lot.
And he could leapfrog all three of them still. He has the
He could.
potential to do that.
He could.
Like, this kid is an absolute stud. And that's why we were kind of freaking out so much at the beginning of the show that he could possibly been injured and out, because he's still young. He's still so crazy young. He's gonna get better. He's gonna develop even more. Um, his ceiling is so incredibly high. We could see him take another leap forward. And at a 9.4 WAR, that's nuts to think about. That he could get above 10. He has the potential.
Absolutely. And it's because he does so much. He's so good defensively, he's so good at the plate, he runs. Like he is very much the five tool total package.
Yep.
Which the three guys before him are not. There's
Right.
nobody else on this list so far that has been a true five tool player, and Bobby Witt absolutely is. And what he means to that Royals team is you can't even begin to estimate the impact that he has on that team, because if they lost him, you can shut the lights out in KC.
Yeah. You wouldn't call Ohtani a 5-tool player?
No,
Why not?
because he can't play the field.
He pitches,
But he can't play the field.
but he has a hose.
But he can't catch the ball.
He doesn't have to. He pitches.
I know, but then he DHs. He's a pitcher and a DH.
Okay. All right.
He's
So
he's a four
Four
tool
and a
guy with
half.
an asterisk. Yeah.
he's a 4.5. All
Yeah.
right.
He's a 4.5.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you set the pitching aside and just look at him as an overall player, he can run, he can hit, he can throw, hit for power, but he can't field. The dude can't catch a baseball.
Okay, that's fair.
But then he pitches to offset it. So if you want to call the pitching the offset, then okay, maybe I'll give that one to you. But
Yeah.
he cannot play a defensive position other than pitcher because he is terrible.
Okay. So he's a 4.5 tool player.
He's a 4.5 tool player.
Yeah. Fair. That's fair.
But like the other guys can't. Soto's wretched in the outfield.
Yeah.
He can't run. He can't throw. He can't catch. Judge is better, but not great.
Right.
So it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Interesting take in the chat. You think he can, but he's been pigeonholed into DH. I think there's some truth to that. I think he's been kind of forced to play DH to protect him to pitch. However, when the Angels used to play him in the outfield, he was awful. It was the ball go up in the air and you could hear the circus music come on, because it was bad. It was like Altuve today, going back to the wall and whiffing. It wasn't good. All right. Moving on. Number 5, Yordan Alvarez. 308 batting average, 5.4 WAR, 35 home runs, 86 RBIs, 392 OBP, 567 slugging percentage. Yordan Alvarez is built a lot like Juan Soto. They are very similar hitters. Soto's a little bit better in terms of pitch selection and eye at the plate, but they are very similar players.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Jordan can use all fields just like Soto. And this guy is left-handed Frank Thomas. This guy's an absolute beast in the box. He's definitely scary coming to the plate. I wouldn't want to see him. Can't throw anything on the inside half. It'll end up in the upper deck. And he can hit for contact. Like, he can slap the ball the other way. If you pitch him outside, he'll take the pitch that way. And we just need him to stay healthy as well. That's his biggest downfall here. But yeah, he's good for 30 plus homers every year, and some big ones. We've seen him in the playoffs. Absolute tanks in the playoffs.
That ball to center still hasn't landed.
Man,
That was crushed.
absolute.
I do think if Yordan Alvarez was actually healthy for a whole season, he and Juan Soto would have a very similar slash line. Because even when he's been on the field, he's always been, it seems like, dealing with something.
Yeah.
But he is a freak at the plate.
Yes. I wouldn't mind having him. Just saying.
No. Oh my goodness, no. Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Number 6, Vlad Jr. 323 batting average, 6.2 WAR, 30 home runs, 103 RBIs, 396 OBP, 544 slugging percentage. He is the right-handed Juan Soto and the Manny Ramirez of this generation. He does everything at the plate.
Yep. And if I was the Blue Jays, I would sign him to a $600 extent. Oh wait. Oh wait.
Yeah.
Too soon.
Anyways.
Anyways,
for Blue Jays fans, too soon. For the rest of us, we can't wait to see him be a free agent because,
my God, I don't know what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, this guy, and it really is too bad, because as incredible as Vladimir Guerrero is, Junior, I mean, as incredible as he is, I still don't think he has reached the full potential, like, superstardom, because he's been kind of hidden away in Toronto. Now, if you put him on any other team in the lower 48, I think his stock's even higher, if that's possible. I'm not saying it's low right now, because it's not. People around the league know who Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is. Like, but I'm saying, like, I think there's another tier.
Yeah.
If he was down here.
I totally agree. And Brandon in the chat, I agree. The weird part is Vladdy still feels like he hasn't lived up to expectations.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I still feel like he could do more. I still feel like there are times I see him play and I'm like, he's got one more gear that we just haven't gotten to yet. And he's only 25. I mean, at the same time, like, I think we also forget how young he is.
Right.
He's, he and Soto and Bobby Witt. I mean, Bobby Witt doesn't turn 25 until the middle of the season this year. These guys are so young, and still very much developing.
Yeah. It just seems like he's been in the league forever. I mean, he has, but I just think kind of being hidden in Toronto there a little bit, like, no one's really gotten the chance to, like, really see the impact that this guy makes, day after day.
Yeah. And they're also not great. Like, the team hasn't been great. So he also hasn't gotten a ton of coverage.
Right.
Which is disappointing, because he is an absolute freak of nature talent. And the entire league cannot wait for him to hit free agency so that the 3 teams that can afford him can go try to get him.
Right.
All right, moving on. Jose Ramirez, 279 batting average, 6.8 WAR, 39 home runs, 118 RBIs, 335 OBP, 537 slug. Consistently an underappreciated player, but an absolute superstar.
Yeah, he's no doubt, to me, the most underappreciated player in baseball, hands down. I don't even think it's close. Again, on a team that possibly should get more recognition than they do, in the Guardians, and how they've been at the top of the AL Central for the last couple of years. I just don't think this guy gets the respect he deserves. but
And it's Cleveland. I mean, he's in Cleveland. It's a
right.
small market. It's a team that's not flashy, that doesn't get a lot of national attention. He just continues to put up numbers. The only hole in his game is the fact that he doesn't walk much, strikes out too much, as you can see with his OBP. But he rakes. I mean, his style, he will chase pitches, but his style of hitting works. I mean, he was almost 40-40 last year because he can
Yep.
run too.
Yep. Yeah. Crazy.
Just absolutely does it. Brandon, they get on the Toronto Blue Jays. Bichette, Biggio, Guerrero, like you had the three, the three
Legacy.
generational players,
Yeah, the
legacy
legacy
players,
players. Yeah.
and it didn't. I mean, Bichette's been good, but hurt and inconsistent. Guerrero's been the only guy who's been consistently good, and Biggio's is he in minor league camp at this point? Is he actually in spring
Yeah.
training with somebody?
He's somewhere now. He bounced around to like 3 teams after the Blue Jays let him go. I don't know where he is right now.
Yep,
So
been bouncing around. And a great point when the Guardians let Lindor go and they chose to keep Ramirez, kind of like the Red Sox. Red Sox made a decision between Xander and Devers. They kept Devers. Guardians had to choose between Lindor and Ramirez. They kept Ramirez. And I'm with you. They were right. I think Jose Ramirez was the right guy to build around. As good as Lindor is, I think there's something about Jose Ramirez that is it's a better building block.
yeah.
Totally agree. All right, moving on. 8, Gunnar Henderson. 281 batting average, 9.1 WAR, 37 home runs, 92 RBIs, 364 OBP, 529 slug. Kid does it all.
Yeah, but last year was obviously a breakout season for him. He was ridiculous. It's hard to argue that he's number 8 here. I mean, if Ramirez didn't have an almost 40-40 season, he's probably number 7, number 6 there. His season was off the charts. Do we see a repeat season out of Gunnar Henderson this year?
I mean, if he stays healthy, I think so. I think he is who he is. I mean, this is last year was Gunnar Henderson's 3rd season, I guess 2nd and a half because he played 30 games a year in 2022. And he got better last year.
Yeah.
Than the year before that. He was 4th and he won the Rookie of the Year in 2023. He was number 4 in the MVP voting last year.
Yeah.
He is insanely good. And getting better, which is scary. Another guy who strikes out a fair amount, walks a fair amount, but just makes a lot of good contact.
Yeah.
And can run and can do all those things and is still very affordable for a couple more years.
Yep. Only 2 though.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't even turn 24 until June.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's again like it's insane how young some of these guys are. In this top 10, you got a lot of young guys.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Number 9, Bryce Harper. He feels like he might be one of the oldest guys on this list now.
Yeah, he might be the oldest.
Yeah, 285 batting average, 4.8 WAR, 30 home runs, 87 RBIs, 373 OBP, 525 slug. Just continues to hit.
Yeah. I really don't have anything to say about Bryce Harper. Everybody knows who Bryce Harper is. Everybody knows that he still rakes. He brings his bat to the ballpark every night and just continually comes up with huge home runs and big hits for the Phillies.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And he's 30. He turns 33 this year. He's been around a long time. I mean, and we've been hearing about Bryce Harper since he was a teenager on the cover of Sports Illustrated. But he continues to hit and have his numbers, declined a little bit, maybe a little bit, but what he means to that team and that city, just you can't understate what he's done for the Phillies. They have not had the success they hoped, but he is a big piece of why they're even in it.
Yeah, and we might be talking about the Phillies how we talk about the 1990s Cleveland Indians. Like, how did this team not win? Look at the talent they had on this team. Trey Turner, Bryce Harper. I mean, just go right down the roster.
Pitching
the
rotation,
starting rotation.
Nasty.
Yeah. Like, in 5 or 6 years, maybe even 10 later down the road when these guys are all gone and retired, moved on, whatever, we could be looking back and being like, how did those 2020s Phillies teams never win?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think they absolutely can. Brandon agrees. Phillies and Indians, great comparison. Teams that were loaded that just could not get it done in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And some of that was they couldn't get it done. Some of that was they just ran into hot teams that
Yep.
shut them down.
I mean, they had the Diamondbacks on the ropes. They
They
had the
did.
Diamondbacks on the ropes and just could not finish them off. I mean,
Nope.
and that's the buzzsaw you were talking about. Like Diamondbacks also got hot at that time, and it was no one was stopping them.
Yeah, exactly. And Brandon, totally agree with this comment. We've been saying this now for a while. Baseball's in such a great place with all these young players.
Yes.
So many guys under the age of 26 that are just elite level guys. The future is scary bright.
Yeah,
for
and I mean,
baseball.
as Red Sox fans, we're sitting here watching Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, and Christian Campbell go deep 3 times, or they each went deep in the spring breakout series today. So like there's even guys that are 18, 19, and 20 that are coming up that are absolute studs too. So like baseball is in a great place.
Yep.
And the talent across the board with all the guys that are in their low 20s is a lot more than we've ever seen in years past. And it just seems like every year more and more guys that are coming up at age 20, 22 like are making immediate impacts on teams, and it's great to see.
Well, it is, and you've got what's scary. What's coming? James Wood. We're going to get a full season of. You've got Dylan Cruz coming. You just continue. The big three for the Red Sox. You just continue to see more of these young players coming.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And yeah, the '90s Indians got robbed, and you have every right to hate the Yankees for it because that team should have won more.
Yep.
I mean,
Totally
not
agree.
the '90s Braves, the '90s Indians. Like those might be two of the best teams that didn't win as much as they should have.
Yep.
Indians didn't win at all, which is shocking.
Yeah.
All right,
Absolutely crazy.
moving on. Last one. Number 10, Kyle Tucker. 289 batting average, 4.7 WAR, 23 home runs, 49 RBIs, 408 OBP, 585 slug. This
Now
guy
this was an
is.
injury shortened season
I
too.
was just
That's
going to
why.
say, yeah, this guy got robbed last year with a freak shin injury on a foul ball that cost him half the year. So that's half a year's numbers. The year before that, in 2023, his last full season, he had 284 with 29 and 112. A guy who's been very well documented in terms of his talent in Houston. The Cubs fans are going to love him, and he is my pick for National League MVP. I think that guy goes and has a monster season in Chicago, playing for a fan base that is going to love to see him every day.
Yeah, I think he's going to absolutely destroy Wrigley Field.
Yeah, he will mash, and that lineup I think is a good fit for him. I think he's going to love that city, and as good as Houston was to him, I think that Chicago, with the history and all that, is just going to be it'll be a different environment. And I think it's going to be, I think for him, an upgrade.
Yep, I don't disagree. I think he could. I don't know if I'm going to slate him in as the National League MVP because you got Shohei Ohtani out there, and we all know the writers love Ohtani. But he could have an MVP caliber season for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to pick him because I think he's great, and because I honestly just don't want to see Ohtani win another one. There are other great players in the league. Let's acknowledge them.
I am with you. I'm with you. I just don't see it happening.
I know. I don't either, but I'm gonna stay hopeful.
Yep, with you.
All right. So just to round it off, other players receiving votes. Some of these guys are pretty good too, I think.
Yeah, they're all right.
Mookie Betts, Brent Rooker, Ellie De La Cruz, Francisco Lindor, Freddie Freeman, Ketel Marte, Mike Trout, Rafael Devers, Wyatt Langford getting votes as very early as interesting, and Corey Seager.
Yeah, that's the one name. Well, there's two names that really stick out to me here: Mike Trout and Wyatt Langford. I know Mike Trout, right? We all know Mike Trout, but is he really a top 10 right now? There's no way to me. You just don't know. He can't stay on the field. He's not a top 10 to me.
No, it's one of those where it's like an asterisk. Mike Trout, like if healthy. Um,
Right.
because we don't know. Is the
Yeah.
talent still there? 100%.
Yeah.
If you got 150 games out of him, he's an MVP candidate, no doubt.
Yep. Yep.
Hell, if you got
Um,
130 games out of him, might be an MVP candidate.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've seen it. 40 and 80 when he played 120 games.
Yep.
Crazy. Wyatt
And then
Langford is the other one that just sticks out to me. Like the kid has a lot of talent, immense
yeah,
talent. But we just haven't seen it quite yet. Interesting that they'd put him in the top 10, or at least a vote for the top 10.
yeah. I mean, this is a kid coming off his rookie season. I will say that he had, I think, the best September in all of baseball, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are riding that like that's who he's going to be, and maybe it is. I mean, the kid is undeniably talented. But you've seen him for exactly what is it? 470 or sorry, you've seen him for exactly one season and 500 at bats.
Yeah.
Let's maybe pump the brakes a little bit on moving him into the top 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Give him a couple of years, and I think he could be there. He's that good.
Yeah, not questioning the talent, just give the kid some time.
Yep.
But
Agree.
I mean, if that becomes the next 10, that's your top 20. That's a pretty impressive list.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a little bit of a homer pick, but Ketel Marte's season last year too. I mean, his season was ridiculous last year. He had 30. I think he was close to 37. I think he had 37 bombs. He missed a chunk of time there at the end. He was going for the MVP for a while, and then he got hurt at like the worst time. Um, but his season was pretty ridiculous last year. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's top 10, but he should have gotten consideration for sure.
Yeah, I mean 292 batting average, 36 home runs, 95 RBIs.
36. 36. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't disagree. There are definitely 10 names you could put up there before Langford. I mean, there's probably
Yeah.
20 names you could put up there before Langford.
Yeah.
Definitely talented, very premature to give him that kind of cred.
Yep. I agree.
All right. Are we ready for this? The rounding third triple play parlay. So we mentioned, I don't know, a few weeks ago now that we're going to experiment this season, do a little sports betting now that we can do that everywhere. So what we're going to do every week, we're going to make a $5 bet. We're going to make a 3-leg parlay, and we're going to create our own parlays. We're going to go down the list and pick the ones we like the best. And then we're going to keep track of how we do all season long. So we'll make our picks each week. We will track them. We will show you how good or bad we did. We're not going to hide anything here. There's no secrets. So you can see how we do. And if you want to bet alongside us,
right.
If you lose, sorry. If you win, maybe cut us in.
Yep. Unless it gets really, really bad, then we might just scrap the whole thing. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just plow ahead, Nick.
Oh no, I'm all for it. I think this will be fun.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, this will be a weekly segment. We'll kind of talk about what we're doing, what parlays we picked, what the odds are, what the payouts look like, and then we'll let you know how we did. So to start off, we've already placed our bets for week 1, which of course we only have the Cubs and Dodgers. So week 1, we bet $5 to win 70, and we're taking Freddie Freeman 2 or more hits at plus 210. We're taking Kyle Tucker plus 2 or more bases at plus 125. And we're taking Yoshi Yamamoto to strike out 6 or more batters at plus 105.
So
how are we feeling, Nick?
This is game 1 of the Tokyo series. All 3 of these are for game 1 of the Tokyo series. So, we'll find out by 8 a.m. Tuesday morning how we did, Harrison. But, if Freddie Freeman, one of the best hitters, I mean, arguably could have been in the top 10. He's just steady Freddie. And then Kyle Tucker just has to shoot a gap or get one over the fence. We get it there. And the only thing that I'm kind of iffy about thinking about it is the 6+ case, because how many innings does Yamamoto actually go? Does he go 3, strike out 2 in each inning? That one I think is the one that's going to hurt us, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll get 5 out of him because he's been pretty well stretched out. But I agree. If they decide they want to cut it short because they're not comfortable, or to them this is still, kind of exhibition plus, then yeah, we could see him get pulled after 3 with 4 Ks or 5 Ks, and we miss it because he didn't pitch long enough. But
Right.
I mean, there's definitely strikeouts to be had in that Cubs lineup. You just have to be in there to get them.
Yep. Agree.
Yeah, but that could totally happen too. Dave Roberts could take him out after 2 innings, and he could K all 6 batters. That would be okay.
As long as we get our 6, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. We just need 6. We need 6, and they can come any way possible. They can come all in the first 2 innings, or you can go 5 and get a 6. I don't care. But yeah, so $5 bet to win 70. Freddie Freeman, 2 or more hits. Kyle Tucker, 2 or more bases. Yamamoto, 6 or more Ks. I'm feeling pretty good about that, Nick.
Yeah, I am too.
Well, we've certainly got something to watch for.
Yep. Exactly.
We're getting some support in the chat early in the season. Think it's a solid bet.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Appreciate
it. We're also talking about, like, it's hard because there's not much to bet on right now. Like the parlays, we'll be able to, have more options as soon as the season actually gets going. But, for just a 1-game bet, really, I think this is pretty good.
Yeah. And we'll see how it goes. But in the meantime, we also did some preseason season-long bets. So for the heck of it, we looked at some of the key stats and said, all right, let's put a few bets down on who we think will be the leaders. So we're taking Aaron Judge at plus 400 as the 2025 home run leader. We're taking Xavier Edwards at plus 1200 to be the stolen base leader. Xavier Edwards with the Miami Marlins played 70 games last year, stole 31 bases. Guy has got electric speed. And then, as we mentioned before, we like Bobby Witt Jr. a lot as a hitter. So we're taking Bobby Witt plus 800 for most hits in the league. So we're betting $5 in each of those, $15 to win 135. Obviously, there's no updates coming on that one for a long time.
Yep.
Those are our kind of season-long leader bets.
Yeah, I'm liking those too. I mean, Bobby Witt had 200 hits last year. Luis Ariz is gonna fall at some point, right? I mean, and it wasn't worth betting on him because it was like what, plus 105. So
Yeah,
it wasn't worth it. So that's why we went there. And Xavier Edwards, like, we bounced back and forth between him and Bryce Terang.
Yeah.
Bryce Terang was our other point. They had the same odds. Terang had 50 stolen bases. And then Harrison throws me the 35 and 70 games. And I'm like, well, like, that's a 70 plus stolen base, like, trend. So let's kind of lean towards him. And it was at plus 1200. So that was a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, Ellie was at plus 100. So it was like break even. So
yeah, you're going to, you bet $5 to win like 750. It made no sense to bet Ellie De La Cruz because there was no return there. And Edwards, I think will be fun. And the Marlins have nothing to lose. They're going to I think if they're going to let him run free, and Francona may want to rein Ellie in just a little bit, but we'll see. I mean, I think these are solid bets. Are there other guys we could have taken? Absolutely. But I feel pretty good with where we're sitting.
Yep. I do too.
So to answer your question, Brandon, is the plan that all the games will be from the same day for the weekly bet? Not necessarily. I mean, it may work out that way, but our plan is we're going to be looking on Thursdays to get the games kind of over the weekend. So trying to bet them that way. So there's a chance they could be from the same day. There's also a chance they could be spread out over a couple of days. So we'll see how it works out, and we may end up choosing to narrow it in. But for right now, we're going to keep it open and figure it out as we go along. Neither one of us are big sports bettors, so this is going to be an adventure for all of us.
Like no joke, like that was the first bet I've ever placed. So
same here. Other than like daily fantasy sports bettings on like building lineups for the NFL, like other than that, I don't bet sports. So this will be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And our results may be horrific. They also may be okay. We'll see.
Yep.
But either way, we're going to share them so you can either laugh or cry with us.
Right. Yeah.
But it should be a lot of fun. So if you choose to place some bets, we'd love to know what bets you guys are all placing. Share them with us. We can compare notes and see how we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Nick. Before we wrap up for the night, let's throw some this or that's out there.
All right.
I got four of them for you, so I think we'll have some fun here. So, What is the best new concession item for 2025? So the one on the left is the Hibarito sandwich from the Cubs. It is a roast beef, garlic butter, lettuce, tomato, and garlic aioli tucked between two smashed and fried plantains. Or you've got the slugger that the Dodgers have just released. It's a 16-inch jalapeno cheddar sausage topped with corn relish, white cheddar cheese sauce, cilantro crema, and crunchy tortilla strips. Which one are you going to the concession stand for, Nick?
Where am I sitting and where's the nearest bathroom?
Well, if you're at Dodger Stadium, you might have to go a little ways. And if you're with the Cubs, you're going to be in a trough out back. So
Yeah. Well, I'm a sausage at the ballpark kind of guy. So it's the sausage for me, and it's not even close. I mean, the Cubs one does sound good, but for me, it's the sausage, and not really close.
yeah, so people are wondering why the hell would I ask such a random question? There's actually an article on ESPN today, talking about this new Slugger 16-inch hot dog thing that the Dodgers have released, and other cool ballpark foods. They did mention Arizona, where they've got dirty mac and cheese fries and like a Parmesan chicken sub, but those were pretty straightforward to me. I thought these were pretty fun. So I am with you, Nick. I am very much a sausage and beer at the ballpark kind of guy. I will say, however, that Hibarito sandwich is kind of calling to me. I do like
Yeah.
the plantain. I do love, kind of the Cuban style food.
Yeah.
I know I'd like the slugger from the Dodgers, but I would probably grab the Hibarito sandwich to try something totally different.
It's fair.
Because I could always go back and get the slugger later.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair.
But
Don't
yeah,
hate it.
I'm going to take the sandwich first, the slugger second, although I think they're both good. But what I will say is, and oh yeah, totally agree. You have to have a hot dog at the baseball game. That I think
Yeah.
is a law written somewhere.
Yep.
I've even now trained my kids when we go to a Sea Dogs game that they need a hot dog first. So like I've already instilled that on the next generation. So they're all
Nice.
welcome.
Yeah, and for 9 payments of $99.99, you too can also enjoy the Slugger sausage.
Yeah, they didn't tell you what it cost. So
Yeah.
I'm a little afraid to ask what the concession stands at Dodger Stadium look like these days.
Yep.
They got a
It's
lot of
fine.
payroll to cover. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will I was as I was starting to say, I'm amazed at what ballpark food has gone to. Like I remember going to the Sox as a kid and it was, peanuts and stuff on Yawkey Way. It was a hot dog and like maybe an ice cream and a soda. Like now you've got all these crazy options.
Yeah.
And it's John that comes in and tells us about like all the crazy stuff the Mariners do.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me what ballpark food has become.
Yeah.
Yeah, chicken strips and garlic fries. Is this like a Mariners thing? Like I feel like the garlic fries is something John had been talking about, but ballpark food is like completely leveled up from where we were used to.
And everything tastes better out of a baseball helmet as well. So doesn't matter
Yes,
what the food is. It's just
that
better out of a helmet.
that law is also written somewhere. I forget where.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
but anyways, yeah. So I put the link to the article in the chat if you want to see some other items that have popped up. There's like a smoked brisket sandwich and for the Nationals, and I don't know, different world of ballpark food now.
Yeah. Hey, can I get the sausage no bun but just shove it in a Dodgers helmet? Thanks.
Yeah, can you just dump that all in a helmet and I'll buy it?
Yeah. Right.
Well, of course they add like $15 to the price because you get the souvenir helmet.
That's fine. I love smelling like beer cheese when I'm walking around the park.
Yeah, I've got a whole pile of those Sea Dogs French fry helmets in my kids'
Oh
playroom.
yeah. The teal ones, I hope.
Combo. I got the red and the
Oh,
teal, I think.
sick. That's sick.
Yeah. So, all right. Next one, Nick. Which team has a brighter future? The Chicago White
all right.
Sox or the Miami Marlins?
For me, I think it's the Marlins right now. The way they're set up, they won the trade deadline last year. The prospects that they've brought in, they completely hosed the Orioles and got Connor Norby from them. I think the Miami Marlins are set up for the future. Now, what they do with that future, they're set up for it.
Yeah.
I don't think necessarily they'll have the best future. They're set up for the brightest future. But typical Marlins. I mean, you look at their team. I think was it 2017? They had Stanton, Yelich, Real Muto, Justin Bohr, D. Gordon. You go right down that list, and you're like, yep, yep, yep. And then they did nothing. So who knows? These kids in 4 or 5 years could be that same kind of layout in their roster, and then they just all ship them out again. But I think you do have some potential studs that could, law of averages says that 2 or 3 of those guys are going to work out and be solid major leaguers. And I think Norby's at the top of that list.
Yeah, I think Norby's a potential stud, and I agree. Like at the trade deadline last year, I said the Marlins won the trade deadline
Yeah.
because they hauled in so many prospects. It's just not even funny. So I do think the Marlins have a loaded minor league system. Although in the latest rankings, I'm trying to find out where they landed. They were much lower than I expected. They landed fifth. They were 16th. They were 16th ranked minor league system. But it's because they're loaded with a lot of really young guys that are further down the chain, so there's not as much value in the near future. But I'm actually going to. So my pick is actually going to be the White Sox. I think the White Sox have a brighter future. I say that for 2 reasons. Actually, I guess 3 reasons. One, they were just rated the number 6 minor league system overall. 2, they have a boatload of talented guys that are in that AAA level that are probably not that far from the major leagues. And 3, they're in Chicago. That is a much larger market that if they actually put a winner on the field or a decent team on the field, the fans will come back. And they will have revenue to play with again. They will be able to sign. They will be able to sign players because they're in a big market. Miami's never going to draw. It is not a big baseball market, and they're going to be stuck in this cycle of call up and turnover forever. I mean, that's unless they're going to find some way to attract people to care about baseball in Southern Florida, which is hard. I mean, do you want to go sit at the Marlins game for 3 hours or go sit on South Beach
Right.
or go to a restaurant or a show? Like these, same thing in Tampa. Like these Florida teams, these coastal Florida teams, you are competing with so many other things for the attention of the fan.
Right.
They can go to the beach, they can go to restaurants, clubs, shows, boating. There are so many things you're competing with, and getting them to care about baseball is hard.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
think the Marlins are ever going to draw unless they roll out just a nasty lineup and winner. The White Sox, I think once they become relevant again, they'll be fine. That revenue will come
Yeah.
back. They will be able to sign players again. Their minor league system is loaded and the players are closer to ready. So
Yeah.
I take the White Sox for all those reasons, but I say that a little bit begrudgingly because I think I love what the Marlins have done. I just think they're going to have a tough time stringing it all together, and it won't be anytime soon.
Yeah, that's completely fair. We saw today that Colson Montgomery got sent down to AAA, and I thought he was going to be the
Yeah,
White Sox starting shortstop this year, but
yeah.
I
I didn't
guess
see that news. That's surprising.
yeah, and he's had a pretty good spring, so I don't know.
Who's going to play over him?
I don't know. Juan
I-
Uribe coming back? I don't know.
It's going to be a reunion tour.
I don't know, man. I don't know what they're doing,
Yeah,
or you know what it could be. It could be just a service time
yeah, probably.
control. That's probably all it is. And I hate that teams can do that. But it's their property of the White Sox. They can do what they want.
Yeah,
It's terrible for him. He had a pretty good attitude about it. He's like, I'm just going to come to work tomorrow and put 150% effort in like I do every day and just get to work. Which I mean, that's the type of kid you want on your team.
right.
But you're sending him to AAA. I mean, that's the type of attitude you want on your big league club that hopefully right the ship. But maybe they're hoping for another year, or he comes up half year. They have control, and they can right the ship.
Yeah, John's predicting a big year for the White Sox, the 50 wins.
I honestly, I'm taking the under of what they won last year. I am.
Oh, really? Ouch.
They didn't get better. They got worse.
No, they did not. They intentionally got worse. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. Now they will have some young players. I think that there's a good chance that like the Kyle Teals of the world, and I do think you'll see Montgomery in May or June when that cutoff happens.
Yeah, I
So
do too.
I think you'll eventually see a lot of these kids come up, but it's going to be a rough summer because you're going to have a lot of young guys learning on the fly. You're going to have a lot of veterans that don't belong there. You're going to have a lack of any real measurable talent.
The
Um,
Crochet's gone. Benintendi, your best hitter, hitting 198 last year, is on the shelf. Like Luis Robert is legit the only guy you have.
for
That's
now,
it for now. The White
yeah,
Sox got worse. I I would not be shocked if we see a sub 47 win team again. I
that would
wouldn't be.
be that would be crazy. I mean, total.
Is there anybody on the pitching staff that I know? I can't sit here and name one. Honestly, I can't. Like
Uh,
literally, I don't have internet connection. Like I can't.
well, let's take a look. Let's take a look around real quick at what their projected roster is going to be. So catchers, you got Corey Lee and Matt Tice, with Kyle Teal as kind of the question mark. You've got Andrew Vaughn at first. You got Josh Rojas at second. You got not going to be Colson Montgomery, so it's probably going to be Chase Meadroth at short. You got Miguel Vargas at third. Bobby Dahlbeck mixing in there as a potential fill-in. Your outfield is Luis Robert Jr., Mike Talkman, Michael Taylor, with Benintendi and Austin Slater as the other guys that'll cycle through there. Bench utility, you're going to have Drury, Sosa, and Fletcher with some other guys that roll through. All right, starting pitchers: Jonathan Cannon, Martin Perez, Davis Martin, Sean Burke, and Shane Smith. So no,
Who? Who?
exactly. So no,
Martin Perez, is he your ace?
probably yeah. I mean, or this younger guy, Jonathan Cannon, and then you do have Mike Clevenger floating around, who knows what he's going to be. You got Cam Boozer in the bullpen, Gus Varland, Penn Murphy, Justin Anderson, Tyler Gilbert. Again, there's no real measurable talent on this team. The only hope for this team to get better is that some of those young kids do get up there in May or June and help turn things around. But
Dude,
your opening day lineup is going to be dreadful.
you're gonna barely win 40 games this year. Barely.
If you run that lineup out there all year, 100% right.
Oh my god, that's bad.
Yeah. the Yankees are going to miss Garrett Cole's speed covering first base. Yeah, because that worked out. That's really worked out for him.
Man.
Oh man,
That's horrendous, dude.
yeah. So I think the White Sox have another year of real just pain coming before they turn this thing around. But they do have a lot of reinforcements coming.
Is there something worse than pain? Because that's what
Yeah.
this year's gonna be. I gosh.
Yeah.
It's it might be almost worth tuning in just to see how bad it is.
Oh, I'm totally going to watch. I mean, it's like a car crash. Like you can't help but turn your head and watch it.
God dang, man, that's wild.
there's nothing better than an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Which stat is more overrated, Nick? The strikeout or the home run?
Which stat is more overrated? I don't know. I mean, I guess a strikeout because I can strike out 27 guys, but I could also give up 27 homers in that same outing.
Yep.
Now, a home run means I'm putting runs on the board no matter what. So a strikeout, yeah, I could strike out 27 guys, but could also mix in 27 homers in there. So I would say a strikeout's overrated just in that frame. I mean, a home run's a home run. That's that.
Yeah.
It puts definite points on the board. Strikeouts don't put points on the board, and it doesn't necessarily prevent them. Yes, it gets me outs, but like I said, there's a lot that can happen between those strikeouts.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, look at Nolan Ryan's career. A 500 pitcher
Right.
with a bajillion strikeouts.
Yeah.
Also walked a bajillion guys too.
Right.
We got to vote for home run in the chat. So this one I really went back and forth on as I was putting it together, because I think, as I mentioned earlier in the show, like, I feel like the K has become very overrated because it's just another out. Whether a guy strikes out 100 times or 172 times, I don't think people even care anymore. They just assume that you're going to strike out a bunch, because that's how the game is played. It's all about launch angle and lift, and the K is just another form of out. And when a guy strikes out 175 times, we used to be horrified by that. Now it's like, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah,
You know,
right. Yeah.
the
Well,
world has changed.
he made a lot of contact this year.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a guy like Luis Ariz, who nobody wants, who strikes out like never. Everybody else strikes out 150 plus times, and they're getting huge contracts. So it
Yep.
is. I do feel like the K has become just another out. And pitchers are striking out more batters because it's just another out, and guys don't care if they K. It wasn't like 20 years ago when you would scratch and claw, 2-2 count to not K. Like guys are okay taking another massive, full speed hack on an 0-2 count and going back to the bench with an out.
Right.
The flip side of it is that I feel like the home run is becoming overrated because it's all anybody wants to hit. Like nobody cares about doubles and triples anymore. Nobody even cares about singles anymore. Luis Ariz is like the most irrelevant guy in baseball, and he's a hitting machine. It's all about the home run. So I feel like in
Yep.
some cases the home runs become overrated. My choice was the K ultimately because I do think that strikeouts are just another out. There's not like a pride or anything like that with how much you strike out. Guys just accept it as an out. But I feel like the home run is beginning to fall into the overrated category as well because everybody's hitting them and it's all they're trying to hit.
Yeah, that's fair. Absolutely fair.
Yeah, look at Joey Gallo. Yeah, you can bat 150 and hit a boatload of home runs.
Yeah.
I mean, Kyle Schwarber, 197 average, 40 bombs.
Yeah.
It's because all he's trying to do is hit home runs,
Yeah.
and he doesn't care about Ks.
Yeah.
And I totally agree, Brandon. Putting the ball into play in small baseball, it's just there's teams don't put value on that anymore. I mean, Tony Gwynn was considered one of the best players of his generation. Luis Ariz, who plays almost the same game as Gwynn, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like the baseball world just keeps dishing him off to other teams because it's like, well, do you hit home runs? No. Do you drive in a lot of runs? No. Well, we don't need you. You're not of value to us.
Yeah. When's the
How
last
else?
time you've seen a hit and run? When's the last time you've seen a bunt and run? A bunt, even.
You don't.
Rarely.
You
No.
don't. I mean, and you got a guy like Kyle Schwarber hitting in the leadoff spot, hitting 200 with 200 Ks.
Yeah.
Like the game has just so completely changed that it's all about the guys that can drop and drive and launch. It's not about the guys that make contact anymore. So I do feel like because of that, the K has become just another out, and it's not as I remember the days of people running the Ks around Fenway Park when Pedro was on the mound. Now
Right.
now a lot of ballparks don't even put the Ks up anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, another one, cool.
Yeah.
So it's
I agree.
totally different.
Absolutely.
It's totally different. So, all right, last one for you, Nick. Which team would you rather own right now, the Rays or the A's?
It's the A's, and for me, it's not even close. I have a home where I know where I'm going, and it's Las Vegas. And what happens there stays there. So and honestly, the young talent that they've locked up long term with Rooker and Butler, and I think once they finally get to Las Vegas, it's going to attract free agents. I think the A's, I would take them in a heartbeat right now. We should do a GoFundMe, pay the $250 it would take to buy the A's right now, and just do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. When I didn't take much to think about this, like the Rays had a great run, and they still have a boatload of young talent, and they're still going to be good. But I feel like they're on the decline. Like they're in the reset cycle of this, where like they have to go and fix. They have to go get their mojo back, and they have to reboot the minor leagues. In the meantime, you got no home. You're playing in a minor league stadium this year. You just terminated your deal to build a new stadium. You are kind of lost with no future path. Whereas the A's, yeah, you're playing in a minor league ballpark for 3 years. You don't have a home either, but you're signing players. You're improving. You've got a great young core. You've got more young help coming. You do know where you're going to end up in a few years. Like there is a path for the A's.
Yep.
Where the Rays are like stuck in purgatory right now.
Yeah, and it is too bad because I know they haven't won a World Series, but they have had sustained success. That was say that 3 times fast. Sustained success. So it's kind of hard to see them like this, like without a home, like battling every day. Um, what did you say? I can't see it.
Yeah, Nick, you wouldn't want to
The
own the Asheville
Asheville
Rays.
Rays. I mean, listen, if they're coming to Asheville, I'm all for it. I'd own them. Absolutely. But
The,
yeah, it's
the
hard.
Raleigh Rays.
The Raleigh Rays. Yeah. Um, it is hard to see the Rays in this state and to not know where they're going. Like their future is completely uncertain. Like we don't know which way this is going. This whole Rays situation could go in 150,000 different directions, and we just don't know where,
Yep.
where, when, how. And I'm not even talking about the roster. I'm talking about the organization itself. Like,
Yeah.
it's sad. It's crazy. I don't know, but yeah, it's the A's for me. It's not even close at this moment.
Yep. I'm with you. And in chat, we're seeing the same thing. It's the A's. It just as much as it's also not an ideal situation, it's not as bad as the Rays. And look, the Rays do still have young talent. They have young players coming up. Junior Caminero is probably going to be a superstar. Shane McClanahan's coming back. That's still going to be a decent team. They just have it's just a hot mess of other things.
Yeah.
And the fact that the minor league system isn't as stocked as it used to be. So you're going to hit a rut here where they're going to run out of talent because they don't re-sign anybody.
Right.
And you're probably going to change ownership or at least change where you are, and that's going to take even more time. You're stuck at the Trop now. It's it's bad. It's a mess.
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah, there you go. We've seen the Vegas thing to fall through for the A's and bring MLB to Portland. There you go.
There's still time. The A's could botch it. I mean, who knows? There's still time.
Yeah, Nick isn't believing the Vegas thing until they actually throw the first pitch in that ballpark. He's been skeptical from the very beginning that it would ever happen.
I started to turn the page a little bit last week. Where I was, it seems a little bit more certain now. But yeah, I still like until I see that first pitch thrown and people in the dugouts on the field playing the first game there, it's going to be kind of hard to believe. But I mean, Fisher seems to be all in at this point. Signing the extension, finally getting his salary up to meet the salary floor. To get the revenue share. Like I think he's in it for real, and it's going for it. It's going to happen.
Yep. Yeah, it would. I mean, Portland, great city, would be nice to see. To see Portland get baseball, and they're trying to get ready for it. To answer the question back in the chat, has this increase in home runs increased home runs as a whole? Going back to like the 94 strike, so coming out of the strike in 95, runs across the league really haven't changed. They've been in the 21 to 22,000 runs a year range. It's when you get back into the 80s, you see a 20% drop. So it's really we've seen offense like this since the mid 90s, and it's been pretty consistent year to year. Obviously minus the COVID year, but it's been pretty consistent. Home runs haven't changed. Total runs scored. They've just changed how they're scoring. Gone to the days of the get a guy on, get him over, get him in. Now it is the just get him on and we'll try to launch one and try to bring them all in together.
Yeah, I remember my first game ever at Fenway. The Red Sox lost 12-9, and there wasn't a single home run hit in that game.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like that's how it was. Like it's not like that now. 12-9 scores got 8 home runs in that game.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like you've got games where it's 4-2 and there were 4 home runs hit.
Right.
And runs only scored on home run. I remember the days where it was basically kind of 2 hits per run scored, when you look at the box score.
Yep.
So if you're going to score 4 runs, you're going to get at least 8 hits.
Yep.
Now you'll see teams score 5 runs on 7 hits or 6 hits, and you're like, how's that possible? Well, it's a couple of walks and a bomb. There's 1 hit and 3 runs because that's just the way the game is played. It used to be you had to get guys on, work them over, get them in. You just don't. It's not that way anymore. You don't see teams, purposely hitting the ball to the right side and move a guy from second or dropping down a bunt or, like you mentioned, the hit and run or the double steal. Like a lot. I mean, thankfully stolen bases are coming back because of the pitch clock. But if it wasn't for the pitch clock, the stolen base would be dead too.
Yep. Or, gone are the days where it was like one run on no hits. Was it the Reds against the
Yeah,
Pirates a couple of
that's
years
right.
ago?
That's
They
right.
threw a no hitter and lost.
Yeah.
Like brutal. But
Yeah. And interesting point by John. I mean, Billy Bean had it right. Bunts are outs, strikeouts are outs. They're all outs. You only get 27 of them. You can do it in all kinds of ways, but if it's not productive, it's an out. And in many cases, bunts, although sacrifice bunts are proven to be generally a positive, it's still an out. You are choosing to give away an out.
right.
And teams don't want to do that anymore. Not when pitchers are throwing 98 miles an hour with 18 inches of breaking stuff. You can't afford to give away outs because you only get so much.
Right. And we've talked about it where the velocity increase and the talent that is out there on the mound, it is easier for me to, if I'm facing prime Justin Verlander, prime Max Scherzer, it's easier for me to hit a solo shot off Max Scherzer than it is to string 5 hits in an inning off him. Because I'm not getting five hits in an inning off prime Scherzer or prime Verlander. You're just not.
No.
So it's easier to connect with a home run than it is to string 5 hits together in an inning.
Yeah. No, it's 100% true. I know I'm not the norm. Definitely baseball purist. I don't find the home run as exciting.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, like the summer of '98, the home run was the most exciting thing on earth. Um, but I think since then, I feel like the home run, like I mentioned before, the home run is like beginning to fall into that overrated category. Everybody's hitting them; it's all they want to hit, and it's really frustrating to see a 4-2 game where there's 4 home runs hit and all the runs scored just off a home run. Like I do miss like the actual days of playing baseball, not the drop and drive and so you can hit it the farthest. It's like the NBA with 3-pointers. Like whatever
Oh,
happened in the days of
yeah.
like passing the ball around, making some cuts, setting a pick and scoring. Now it's like pass, shoot, pass, shoot, pass, shoot, or don't even
Yeah.
pass, just come down to shoot.
There's nothing like seeing runners on first and second, and someone just rips one down the first base line. First baseman has to like lay out, but he misses it. The ball gets down the corner. The third base coach is just wheeling everybody around. Like
Yep.
that's an exciting play. Everybody's moving. Everybody's on their horse. Um, like I do miss that aspect. And yes, you still see it, but not nearly as much as you used to.
Yeah, no, I very much there was a different style of baseball that is just not it's not the same anymore.
Yeah.
All right, I've just got 1 or 2 more quick items. Does chat have anything for us? Any topics you guys are watching or want to talk about? Throw them out there. I had an update on the Paul Skenes card bidding,
Oh yeah.
and I was trying to find the number, and I lost the article. Oh, now it's not going to give it to me.
Of course not.
Oh yeah, it's behind a paywall. Thank you, New York Times. Oh no, sorry, this is Athletic, which is even worse. But the headline is bidding on Paul Skenes' debut patch card is actually almost at Paul Skenes' 2025 salary.
Oh God.
So that would put him at 870,000. So that means the bidding is somewhere in the 800,000 range for that Paul Skenes card the kid from California pulled.
Dang.
Um,
So that's gone up 200, almost 300,000 in a week.
yeah, it was at 660 when we were on last, and now it's up over 800,
Yeah.
which is bananas for a baseball card.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that. I get the rarity of it, but you're banking a lot on a guy who's made 20 career starts.
Yeah.
I mean, all due respect to Paul Skenes, but boy, oh boy,
He's my MVP and Cy Young pick this year.
nice.
It won't happen, but yeah.
No, but that's fine. So I saw this article and I was like, oh man, I got to bring this one up. So the St. Louis Cardinals signed righty reliever Phil Maton to a 1-year contract on Thursday.
It's Phil Maton.
I say I know I'm not pronouncing that right. He is the first major league free agent that St. Louis has signed all offseason. And that comes after Tony Clark made the following comments. rest assured, because we track all 30 teams all the time, when a team that has historically functioned a certain way suddenly finds them functioning different, yeah, we pay attention to it. We pay attention to it. So Tony Clark in the press called the Cardinals out, basically without naming them, but he called the Cardinals out, basically saying, "Hey, we know that you aren't doing the normal thing." And the Cardinals immediately responded by signing a major league reliever to say, "Hey, look, we signed somebody." But that it took until today, or I guess technically yesterday, for the Cardinals to sign a major league contract this offseason. Horrifying.
It is horrifying, but like they've also been pretty public about like what they're trying to do with their organization.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, like and when you're trying to reboot and rebuild, like signing major league guys really doesn't help you in that aspect. Right? I mean,
No.
sure, like you should be trying to win, but like if your whole organization is trying to rebuild for the future, like I shouldn't feel pressure to go out and sign guys that I don't want to be on my team if I don't want them. Like I get it from Tony Clark, like he's protecting the players, trying to find them jobs. Like I get that aspect of it, but like why aren't you talking to the Pirates about no multi-year deals since 2016?
Right. Yeah.
That's almost worse.
There's other teams you can go pick on too. I mean, I get that the Cardinals historically have been an active team. They've been a contender. They've been very clear. This is Mozeliak's last year. He's kind of beginning to tear down so he can hand the reins to Heim Bloom and they can do the rebuild once he's gone. So I mean, there's no surprises that the Cardinals are doing this, but Tony Clark is very much, as much crap as they're getting about the contracts, he's beginning to give it right back to owners um, about what they're not doing. So they are very much setting the stage for what looks like it's going to be a very contentious CBA negotiation window in 2026 when
Yeah,
it comes up.
we need to find a way to get press passes to cover that shit because that's going to be
Dude,
ridiculous.
yeah, to be a fly on the wall for any of that, man, that'll be
Ooh,
nuts.
wild.
But yeah, so Cardinals got called out. They finally signed somebody. They're off the schneid, but the Players Association is absolutely taking notes and keeping receipts.
Wild.
So
It's crazy.
we got a welcome, Rye Guy. We got a Jays fan in the chat.
Nice.
Love it. We talked a lot about Vladdy earlier. All right.
Yeah.
15 years, 600 million. Would you sign Vladdy for that as a Jays fan? I hope the answer is yes.
Yeah.
And chat never fails. Here we go. No Tatas or Ashos hats. So we have not gotten. Yeah. Have you done the New Era hat issue?
We have not. I was gonna put it in, and then I didn't. I just like they are bad. Like I'm a huge hat guy. Like I got 65 hats in my closet. Like as you guys would probably tell at a regulars on the show, I wear a different hat every show.
It's absurd.
I would not buy any of those. They are really bad. But yeah, the T-Toss hat for Texas was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But
so before you go on, but if you don't know what we're talking about, I just dropped a link to an article in the chat about what these hats are. It's hilarious.
Yeah, the ash hose is pretty funny. But
the T-Toss is really bad.
Yeah. That was not thought out. That
no,
was not
how that got through quality control into the shelf, I'll never understand. It's like the Fanatics uniforms last year. Like, how did those get through quality control and to the field? So what these hats are basically, they put the logo of the team over the top of the kind of the city they're in. So for Texas, they put Texas underneath it with the T over the top of it. So it looks like it's T-Toss because the T is over the X. These are really bad. What's amazing though, Nick, is if you go on eBay, that T-Toss hat is selling for $1,000 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get them fast enough. People that as soon as they came out, people were like, oh my God, get them. People bought them like crazy. They've now taken them off the store. You can't get them. And people are selling them for $1,000+ on eBay because they are just that. They're so bad.
I love hats, but I would never pay that much for a hat. That's insane.
They're such a terrible hat.
Yeah.
And the concept was interesting. The execution of it was terrible.
Yep.
it's not their finest moment. Just not their
Nope.
finest moment.
Nope. No, it wasn't. But yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, and then I tried to buy one. Yeah, a lot that the apparently the MLB site got flooded. Um, just as they were taking them down, people were trying to buy them. So bad.
You
Um,
sickos out there. Come on now.
you're flipping a hat for $1,000. I love it.
Yeah.
Question. Here's another question for you, Nick. Would you have accepted the Pirates offer to the kid who pulled the card? So it was what? It was season tickets. It was Livy Dunn's box. It was like a private meet and greet with Skenes
And Levy Dunn.
and Livy Dunn. Would you have taken the offer?
If I was in Pittsburgh or around the area, I would have thought long and hard about it. But since the kid pulled it in LA, it's not a great offer. Right? I mean, if you think about it, like I can't get to the games, and even if I take the season tickets for life, like now not me because I'm the kid that pulled it. My parents have to try to sell these tickets every single night. Yes, they're right behind home plate. I get it, but like it's a big headache to try to sell those tickets every night. I probably would have said no. If I'm living around Pittsburgh, I'm in the Pittsburgh area, and I pulled it. I think I'm taking it, or I just say, hey, give me the cash value.
Yep. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. And when this first happened, we went through this, and I think it's a great offer. First of all, it's a great offer because it was like
It
season
was, yeah.
tickets for like 30 years, and the value of that was like over $1 million if you were to go buy them. So, like, it's a great offer. But the kid lives in California. Yeah, like, to your point, like that's a great offer if you live in the Pittsburgh area. If you
Yeah.
pull that card anywhere else in the country, it makes no sense. Like you're not going to the games. You're not the headache of trying to sell those things every night is a pain. You got them for 30 years, so it's like it's just going to keep coming at you. Are you really going to fly to Pittsburgh to meet Paul Skenes? Like I might, but I'm never going back. So
Right.
it's hard because if you're not local to that area and that's not your team, the package is worth nothing in effect. So I'm in the same boat. I would not have taken the offer. I would have sold the card, taken the cash. This kid is way better than me. He's selling the card and donating the cash to the fire
Right.
relief because he's
Crazy.
he's in California. God bless him. I would have kept it for myself.
Yep.
Not gonna lie. This kid apparently's got a bigger heart than I do.
Yep. Crazy.
But yeah, I think that offer is hard to take for anybody who's not a Pittsburgh resident.
Yeah. I mean, if it's like New York Yankees tickets behind home plate, like those are $2,000 a pop at least.
Yeah.
Like it's a different animal. But I mean, we looked at it and it was like what, 130
They're like, yeah,
maybe?
$135 and
Something like that behind
it's
home plate. So
it's not like
it's
people
not
are
worth.
yeah, it's not like people are banging down the door to buy Pirates tickets.
Right.
Like the Yankees, yeah. I mean, there's lots of teams it'd be worth getting the tickets. The Pirates, not so much. Selling those would be a pain.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, I forgot about this one, baseball history dork. The anals, that's right.
The anals.
Because the A is covering the G, so it looks like anals. You got the Ashos and the anals, and the Titas, which literally translates exactly as you think it does.
Yep. Yeah.
And just again, like we said with the City Connects, like I appreciate MLB trying to get creative. I appreciate them trying to do something different. But how the hell do you keep letting stuff like this get out? How do you let some of those City Connect uniforms go out? How do you let the Fanatics garbage uniforms go out? How do you let these hats go out? Like, who's checking this stuff?
I don't know. But I'm glad the anals hat just didn't have the solo halo right above it. But I mean, just terrible, man. I don't like you said. What are you thinking? Like, I just can't. Man, oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
brutal.
yes, they're also they look terrible too. Like it is just like it's a sloppy overlay, and they're called the overlay hats. Like it's the overlay series, the emblem over the words, and they just look terrible. Again, like interesting concept, poor execution, and then some hilarious mistakes.
But I mean, you could have like expanded the background lettering and then shrunk the symbol like in the middle of their lettering. You know what I mean? So like you could actually see all the letters behind
Yeah.
it. That would have been way better than keeping them all the same size and just
Yeah,
yeah,
it's so bad.
yeah,
It's again
that's funny.
how anybody saw those and goes, yeah, let's ship them. I'll
Yep,
I'll never
looks
understand.
yep, looks good.
Yeah,
We're good.
yeah, that
Send them
looks
out.
great. Launch it. So, and then
Oh
I
my
guess
god.
just lastly, we had the Rafael Devers came out today. So we've been railing on Rafael Devers for a while now. So for those of you who don't follow the Red Sox, Rafael Devers came out about a month ago when asked if he'd play DH or anywhere else in the field, and his answer was just a flat out no. Today, when asked the similar question, he said, "I'm prepared to do whatever the team." In his own words, he said, "Basically, I'm ready to do what the team needs." So a complete 180 in what he said just a few weeks ago. The question is, Nick, is that because he really means that, or is it because of the backlash he got and he realized he had to go back and walk back what he said?
I think it's a couple things. I think it's going back and seeing how bad it actually made him look. And I
It was
think his
bad.
shoulder's still really bothering him.
I agree.
I have a feeling it is injury related, um, and image. I think it's those two. I don't. I would like to say I'm buying the whole team aspect part of it, but I don't think I am. I think it's something selfish, image wise, or he's still hurt, and he's realizing that DH is really the best thing for him personally to at least be able to play.
Yep. Yeah, exactly what we're seeing here in the chat too. Good long talking for sure. Maybe his shoulder is still not great. I'm with you, Nick. I believe the shoulder is still a problem, which is why he keeps pushing back his spring training debut. I do think he's playing a bit of a game with the team. I think he's sitting longer than he needs to. But he keeps pushing his spring training start back. I think the shoulder's not as good as he wants everybody to believe. And I think, honestly, I think that he's probably had a chat with Cora where Cora basically said, look, dude, we're doing this. Like
Right.
you can either be the DH on opening day and like it or not. But that's where I'm writing you in.
Yeah.
And I think that's the stance of the team now. It's basically, and as much as I don't like Cora, I do think Cora is really good when he's got to deliver a message to players. He's not afraid to deliver it in a way. Like I remember him in the playoffs when Eddie Rodriguez got that big K and he was celebrating. And
Yes.
on the top step of the dugout, Cora grabs him by the back of the neck and pulls him in close and just says, "We don't do that here, kid." And that was it. It was over.
Yep.
Cora is not afraid to grab a guy and pull him back to reality. And I get the sense that Cora probably sat Devers down and said, "Look, dude, we're doing it. You either need to get on board or be prepared with how you're going to handle it because this is what we're doing."
Yeah.
But I do think the shoulder is still a problem, and I do think that him being DH is going to help him have a better season. And I also believe that's why we've seen so much of Yoshida in the outfield the last few weeks. Is I do think they were already planning to do this.
Yes.
They were just
I
waiting
agree.
for him to get on board with it.
Yep. Yep.
Because that makes sense. Yoshida goes to left, Rafaela plays second, Devers goes to DH. Now your lineup is set. What that means, though, is that likely means no Campbell, no Mayer, because you don't need a second baseman anymore, and you're not going to have those guys back up. So I think that's a situation where Hamilton or Grissom make the team, and then Anthony probably becomes your right fielder until Abreu gets back, and then they got to figure it out.
Yeah. Then at that point, I almost sit Yoshida and I start Anthony. If Anthony is up with the club, I want him playing.
I agree, and that's why I
I
think
don't want him sitting on the bench.
No, I think he'll play right field with Abreu out, and then when Abreu comes back, you're gonna have to figure out what to do. Who slides over, who moves, and who knows where you are. Somebody could be hurt by then too. You never know.
Yeah.
But I think that basically tells you that the only one of the big three with a shot of making this team is Anthony.
Yeah. But I mean, there's also, I mean, I hope this doesn't happen, but the whole Jackson Holiday experiment.
Yep.
Right? Anthony could come up and just be just a tad bit over his head, and we have to send him down, and it works itself out. Like I say it every week, the baseball gods are cruel, and it always seems to iron out. Like
Yeah.
it
Yep.
it everything will fall into place eventually. I don't think Yoshida's the answer. I really don't.
No,
So,
no, I agree.
I don't know.
Yoshida's had a great spring. And honestly, I think you go into the season, Yoshida plays left field, you see how it goes. If it's a total train wreck, you can't do that. You wheel it back. In the meantime, Campbell and Mayer are down in the minor leagues getting some reps. I wouldn't hate the idea of sending Anthony down too and letting Trace Thompson fill that hole for a little while you figure out what your permanent thoughts are here. Because I'm with you. I do not want to see them bring these kids up and have them play 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And struggle because they can't get consistent at bats. I'd rather see them go to AAA and mash for the next 3 months and then figure out where they slot in later in the year. But
Yep.
it definitely seems like the Red Sox are moving in the direction of Devers as the DH, Rafaela probably playing second base, the kids all going to the minor leagues, and then they're gonna have to figure it out.
Which I've been saying that's the strongest possible lineup to have going into opening day anyway. So
agreed. I totally agree.
Yeah.
So, and this is probably the path in which Trace Thompson can make the team.
Yeah.
And
I say you ride his hot bat, and as soon as it cools off, you send him to Miami.
yeah, and that could be April 3rd. It could be April 28th. It could be all season. I mean, who knows? But I think you give the hot bat a spot in the lineup and until it isn't anymore, and then yeah, then you figure out what's next. But I think that it makes sense for the Red Sox to take that approach. I'm a little disappointed we won't see any of the big three, but they'll be back soon.
I was gonna say we will.
Yeah.
We will for sure.
Yeah, they'll be back soon. And totally agree with this comment. Cora is a professional. He will handle business.
Yeah.
And the players love and respect him. He can give you bad news to your face. They're still going to love him. So
yeah, agree.
He's got a great relationship there.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
I think that's it. We good in the chat. Anything else for us? Long one tonight, Nick. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely love it.
I love the free form. Let's just get on, talk some baseball, see where it takes us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as long as my internet works, this is ridiculous right now.
Maybe fewer technical difficulties. If you missed my monologue earlier, feel free to go back and I talked about the Tampa Bay Rays stadium situation by myself.
Bro, my whole computer just literally froze, went black, and then Wi-Fi out. I can't get it rebooted, so I don't know what's going on. But yeah. So thanks for sticking with me, first of all. But yeah.
We got to do the beauty of a live show.
Absolutely. Just don't ever crash on me because I'd be a stammering idiot for about a half hour. So, but all right, yeah, all right. Well, thanks to everybody in the chat. Absolute blast, like always, guys. This is why we do it. We love talking baseball with you. So keep coming back. We will be back on Sunday. Sunday is our season projection show. We will share our MVP, Rookie of the Year, Manager of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year. We'll pick our order in each division, how we think they're going to finish. And you will see an old rounding third baseball host in Sean. So Sean will be back Sunday to also go over his preseason picks. So it'll be exciting to have him back on for a show. We will be on 9 o'clock Sunday night. So come see the season predictions. And then next week, we will be live. I know it's going to be crazy early in the morning, but we are going to do our first baseball watch party watching the Cubs and Dodgers at 6 a.m. So set your alarms for that, West Coast, at 3 a.m.
Yeah, we'll see you in the middle of the night.
Yeah. So that's what we got coming down the highway here. So make sure you tune in. But until then, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Follow and like on Facebook, follow on Instagram, Rumble, TikTok, all the platforms. Listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And we will see y'all on Sunday.
And as always, share with a friend because sharing is caring. See ya.